Welcome again to another episode of Leadership is Me, the podcast where personal growth meets real world leadership and where titles kind of take a back seat to the truth. I'm your host, the Blooming Dahlia, coach, guide, and founder of Rebel Alchemy. And around here, we have real, unfiltered conversations with everyday entrepreneurs and leaders who are daring to rewrite their story and are choosing also to grow through it. In every episode, we will explore the heart of growth, the mindset shifts, quiet battles, and defining moments that shape not just leaders, but entire lives. Because leadership is not a title to wear, it's a journey that you live. It shows up in the choices you make, the grace you give yourself, and the courage it takes to keep going, especially when the way forward isn't that clear. So if you're building a business, rebuilding yourself, or simply learning how to lead with your truth, you found your people. So let's dive in. So today I am talking with a dear friend of mine from my hometown, Cleveland, Coach Karen. She is the founder, CEO of Legacy Builders. And her entire company is focused and dedicated to empowering small and medium sized businesses to build thriving organizations, strong company cultures, as well as develop leadership skills and high performing teams, which for anyone that has had a 9 to 5, you knew how important that is. So I want to stress again how excited I am to talk to her today, as well as to share her story. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, Dahlia. I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Again, I'm so excited not only to talk to you, but to talk to someone that this entire time I'm going to be living in Cleveland again mentally.
Mm.
So before I get to picking your brain,
Okay.
why don't you just tell us, give the next 30 seconds, just tell us a little bit about you, about your business, and what it is that you do.
Okay. Well, I thought you did a great job in really summing up what I do. I am a business coach, and I also coach just team building, culture development, and those kinds of things for small and medium-sized businesses. Because what we find is that number one, we know that our small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they employ, 89% of our of the US. And so it's very important, I think, to make sure that they are built up and they're paying attention to the small things because it's the small things that make the difference. And that's leadership, that's culture, and that's their team. So that's what I do. I try to help in that space.
Awesome. So first and foremost, I know, again, I have a little cheat sheet just because I know.
Okay.
I know that you're an educator.
Yes.
So was it what you've seen in the education field as far as like the students that you've worked with or maybe the companies that you've seen on that side that helped influence why you went into this business?
I'm going to tell you really, the reason I went into this business is because as a leader, growing up, I got my first leadership position in my early 20s. And what I discovered is that I did it all wrong. Right. I thought I was a great leader. I thought that, because um, I knew the business. I had great customer service skills, but I had a lot of other interpersonal things that I needed to work on. And I had team members that basically told me that. And so for me, instead of getting upset and defensive, I took on the attitude that everybody can't be wrong. Right. And so I really started to take a deeper look and be more reflective of myself. And so I have been on a journey, for the last, few decades, really working on me, empowering myself, investing in myself and the development. And initially, I was just kind of giving away the knowledge for free. I was volunteering with different organizations and, giving workshops and leading trainings. On a volunteer basis. And my daughter actually told me, Mom, you need to stop giving away your genius for free. You need to find a way to monetize it, and you need to find a way to develop it more so that you can reach the most number of people. And so I've spent the last at least 3 years working on that and doing just that. And so now I have a viable um, uh, business and a viable product to offer.
Our daughters will always get us together.
Won't they? Won't they?
No, no Vaseline. They
Oh,
would be like, "Look, mom, what is you doing?" Like,
exactly. And that's exactly the conversation she had with me. And I had never even thought about going into business. It was just that I know I just wanted people to succeed and be successful. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I see a lot of the errors and a lot of the, things that I've learned along the way in leadership positions, in training positions, in the classroom, as you said, in dealing with students, and listening.
so you hit on something that I just kind of have to moonwalk back because I think you hit on something that a lot of people have experienced or even are currently experiencing, especially that have managers
Yeah,
that or bosses that again are extremely skilled in maybe what they do, but
right.
not in working with people. So you said you chose to take the road of everyone can't be wrong. Where
Correct.
did you find the humility to do that? Because not a lot of, we all have experienced that boss that's just like, well, look, this is just kind of what it is. The
Right.
problem is you, not me.
Right. So for me, um, I think that I wanted to show up well for my team. I wanted to make them feel like it made a difference to me how I made them feel. And I find that because of that, um, when you have a team that can respect you and they feel appreciated, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel like you really are invested in them, they will invest just as much in you. And so over the years, I've had positions where I was recruiting, and interviewing and really had a lot of HR-ish functionality. And people quit their positions oftentimes because of the managers, the supervisors, the leadership, not because of the company. The company could be terrific, but they left because there were people who didn't know how to talk to them, who didn't make them feel seen or heard or respected. And there are lots of leaders that will say, that they're just being too sensitive, they're being too this, they're being too that. But in your companies, I think that it's important to recognize how often you're losing money because people are walking away and you spend a lot of time advertising, recruiting, and having to start over again in the training process, as opposed to just taking some time to invest in your leaderships. And when you are promoting someone because of the job that they do, you also need to give them the training that comes along with being a manager of your most precious asset, which is your human resources, right? Your that human capital. And so until leaders really get that part, there's going to be continue to be turnover. There's going to continue to be, you know, um, just a lot of back and forth. And then we have what we now call quiet quitting, right?
Right.
Employees that are going to come in and they're going to do the bare minimum. They're going to do enough to keep their job, but they're not going to do too much more than that because they're looking. Yeah, they're looking. And again, with the gig economy, sometimes they don't even look long. They say, I would rather, right? I'd rather drive Lyft or Uber. I'd rather Instacart. I'd rather do Uber Eats than to put up with this another moment. And so now you've invested time in training them, in benefits if you offer them, and all the things. And now you have to start over again, right? And then there's others that are loudly quitting and they are getting others on the bandwagon and they're taking other people with them. So, and it's all because we aren't spending the time to invest in our leaders. Now, in larger companies where they have a budget and they have a whole training department, there tends to be a little bit more of that going on, but not always. But small and mid-sized businesses, when they want to grow, they have to really look at their core, right? And so that's how this became just very important work to me.
Oh, it is a fact that people don't leave businesses, they leave people. So it is, I mean, it is a
Yeah,
fact
research
that
says that.
research says that normally when there's turnover, 9 out of 10, 9 point something out of 10, it
Right.
was because of someone at the company, not necessarily the company itself.
That's right.
Um, so in order for a leader to say, you know what, it's not just the people that need to learn, as you said, especially like larger companies that have like a training or learning and development department.
Right.
Right, you said it happens, but it doesn't necessarily happen as much as it probably should. So,
Right.
what kind of shift in identity do people need to say, okay, I might be, let's even take it to the highest.
Right.
I might be the CEO, which
Right.
means I had all the skills in the world to build the business, but it does not necessarily mean I'm a people leader. So,
Hmm.
what type of identity shift did either you have or do you suggest for people to have to start to see themselves as a total leader, not just I am a leader because I do. I am a leader because I am able to receive, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, I think it really just has to be, it has to start with the desire to show up as the best version of yourself that you can. It's about lifelong learning. It is about, valuing how you show up. So you have to ask for the feedback, right? You have to say, "Hey, team, how am I doing?" You know, um, there's times when you may want to say, "Hey, let's just do a keep, start, stop." Right? What are the things I should keep doing, start doing, and stop doing? And maybe get a little bit of background on why and how it makes people feel. But you also have to be prepared when you have those conversations, and you have to be able to set the tone and cultivate a culture that will support that so that people don't feel like if I tell you the truth, my job's in jeopardy. If I tell you the truth, there's going to be some type of, retaliation. So I'd rather just go ahead and be quiet. You have to really be able to accept some 360 feedback. Right. That's the start of it is you have to make the decision and there has to be some intentionality behind it. I want to show up as the best version of myself. How can I do that? And how can I do that for you? And it doesn't mean that you are just giving the moon away, but it does mean that you are taking seriously the feedback and considering how you're making others feel. Um, and I think also, even for the CEO, oftentimes they are not necessarily the people that can get it done either. They are the visionaries, and they need to hire the people that can carry the vision out. And so I think from the top to the bottom to the top, that when it comes to leadership development, there should be no rank in the room. I think when it comes to leadership development, everyone should have the opportunity to participate. Because the other thing is that even in the larger companies, the training may be there, but oftentimes you don't give the space for people to be able to go and take the training, or you don't even push it to say, hey, we really support this. We really want you to do that, or identify some folks that you're saying, that's a part of your succession planning. Right. There are not a lot of companies that are even doing that anymore. So um, leadership development and the desire to be your best, it has a lot of layers to it. So you start with one layer and you work your way through.
Of the fact that you said that you have not necessarily like fully addressed it,
No.
because I feel like people get stuck with expecting the fear to leave in order for them to start, when the truth
Right.
is, and even in other conversations that I've had and in my own personal life, it's been the same thing. Your
Right.
fear is just like in the back seat. Like
It
it's
has to
not
be.
right. It's not going anywhere. It's actually waiting for you to do something. As you said, get information, get knowledge, expose yourself
Right.
in places that you need to expose yourself. And then at a certain point, while it never ever leaves, its voice gets a little quieter,
Right.
if that makes sense. Is that how you felt?
Well, I feel like, I can't. I feel like in my own spirituality, I understand that fear and faith cannot exist in the same space. So I choose to walk in faith. And so, yeah, that fear is in the back seat. And, it's just like, it's been quoted over and over and over again, do it anyway. Do it anyway, regardless of how you feel, because what I understand is what makes you feel comfortable is not the thing that's helping you grow. If you are too comfortable, you're not growing. And I am a person that I want to grow. And so I have to tell myself that I have the capacity, I'm ready, and just take the first step. And that first step leads to the next step. And that next step leads to the next step. And before you know it, you're walking and then you're running, right? And then you're jumping. So like yeah, I guess I just don't try to think about it from the space of fear. I just say it's something that needs to be done and I'm the one to do it. That's my purpose and I just have to walk in it.
As someone who, as you said, is determined to grow, I know that as you said, first you take a step, you start walking, you start
Yeah.
jumping.
Yeah.
Along with that comes boundaries.
Yeah.
What are some of the boundaries that you've had to place in your life to want to continue on this path, and how do you help business owners understand the importance of boundaries um, within your practice?
Right. So that's an excellent question. Boundaries. I think that for me, it started with having to learn to keep some things to myself, right?
Mhm.
While I was working on them.
Amen.
Um, you know, because what I found is in my excitement in the beginning, I wanted to just share everything and particularly with the people that I loved and that were closest to me. Um, and what I found was that everybody is not as happy for you as you are for yourself. So sometimes there's power in words, there's power in the tongue. And before you can really I'm holding on to a precious seed, right? And I need to nurture it and I need to give it the light and I need to all the things that I need to do with this seed before I start to see the little sprouts. And if something happens prematurely, too much water, too much sun, too much anything, right? That little seedling doesn't have a chance and it's kind of snuffed out before it has that opportunity to really reach its full potential. So when I think about boundaries, I think about the things that is this going to add to what I'm trying to grow, or could it be perhaps a hindrance to what I'm trying to grow? And the things that I deem will be the hindrances become where I put a hard line in the sand. That's a boundary for me. I'm not going to cross that. I'm not going to give that any life. I'm not going to deal with that person or that situation. And also, it's about making the choices to, because people are always going to ask for something of you. Is it something that is in alignment with what my mission, what my goals are right now? If not, as much as I mean, and I am multi-passionate. So there is very
I love
little,
that term. You're like
right? I am
multi-passionate, right?
multi-passionate. So there's very little that I want to say no to. But I had to learn to reel myself back in because I only have so much bandwidth. I only have so many resources. I only have so much time. And so the boundaries come and they kind of establish themselves because if it's not in alignment with my values and it's not in alignment with the goal that I'm currently working on, it's a no, and so those are a couple of ways in which I guess I establish some boundaries for myself.
Spoke a whole lot of truth right there, because it's a such an eye-opening thing, I think. And sometimes, as you said, when you were talking about the seed,
Yeah.
um, I immediately in my mind was thinking these are employees. So when you're
Mhm.
talking about
Yeah.
the importance of humility in your leadership, the
Yeah.
importance of, pouring in and being willing to get that feedback and continue to grow. it is to nourish those seeds, those
Right.
employees, to allow them to be able to grow and have space and develop. So that's
Right.
literally, I feel like it's so parallel. The thought process of I have to have a boundary over here because
Mhm.
maybe not everybody wants to dream. Like that was a
That's
hard,
right.
that was a hard reality for me. Like not everybody wants to dream. There's some people
That's
that's
right.
totally fine with the TV sitting on channel 3 all day long. Like that's just where they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's for them. But
Right.
for those of us that like to, as you said, be multi-passionate, which I'm completely in love with that term.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can bump up against others' reality. And it is
Right.
important to have that boundary. So has your definition changed of what it was like, of like when you first started this, when you first got your leadership role, what a leader was versus now?
Definitely. Definitely. And I think also because when, I grew up in corporate America, right? I had leadership positions at a time when management was much different. Your top leaders were somewhere tucked away that you never saw them. And the people that you had were your managers were just very much do as I say. And you were very much as an employee back then as okay, okay,
So, okay.
right, okay. I want to keep my job, and also I think if I'm being honest, it's a little different too because, starting out my career in leadership and in management and supervision, I was a mom that had young children, and being able to keep those jobs really was very important.
Yeah.
The further I got along in my career, the older I got, the older my children became, you know, um, it gave me room to explore some different things. And also those theories of leadership were constantly changing, right? So now, and really coming to grips with the kind of leader I wanted to be was a big difference because when I started out, I didn't think about what kind of leader I wanted to be. I just, I don't
You
even know if I
just
thought about being a leader at all,
mm,
right?
had the title. Just had the title, right?
Correct. I think that I just mostly thought, I have this team of people and we are responsible for meeting these goals and we're going to do that by any means necessary. And, you just got to ride people. And that's not true. It's not true. And so over time, seeing that it wasn't true, changing and trying some different things and really soliciting that feedback, it helped me. And it helped us as a team grow. It helped, and I could see it then in the productivity, in the numbers, in the matrices, and in the customer service. So I could see how those things were changing. And then there became a point when I did say, what kind of leader do I want to show up as? Because I was doing the work and I was reading and I was reading, Brene Brown, and I was looking at Tom Collins, and I was looking at, all the great thought leaders. And I'm thinking, boy, they are all saying some of the same things, but they're coming from a different perspective. And they are defining themselves as leaders. And so it really made me think more like, okay, well, how do I define myself? How do I want to show up? And how will that in the end, benefit me and those around me?
I think I almost lost my thought there for a hot second, but
Yeah.
what it came across to me was like their own. She has built, or they have built their own little personal board.
Correct.
Like
Correct. Like an advisory board.
right, like an advisory
Yes.
board, because I'm
Yes.
sure if everyone else is coming to the table with something, there's various levels of expertise, there's
Exactly.
various experiences, and so they're able to pour into each other, not only
Yes.
just as entrepreneurs, but here's an area I'm strong in. You may have a challenge that I have the answer to. I love that.
Absolutely. Right. And coming at business and growing the business from a strengths-based perspective, right? As
Mm.
opposed to, and I think that, and I'm going to take that back to one of the questions that you asked me as well, because part of being a great leader is also recognizing where you need some folks to come in, because this is not an area I'm strong in. You can't be strong in all the
Right.
areas,
Yeah, you can't
right?
do it
You
all.
cannot do it all. And so when you talk about finding your tribe, you talk about building your team, you talk about the things that leaders need to do and understand, you have to be real with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and say, because sometimes you're not the best person to lead the charge. Sometimes you want to lean into the expertise and the talents and the strengths of the team that you're building around you. And when everybody is working from their strengths, boy, you have a phenomenal team that is doing the very, very best, right? Because they're showing up as their best, and they are in their element. And so you're winning, and you create that win-win scenario for yourself and for your business.
It's like, again, it goes back to finding your tribe, being
Yeah,
humble, because it does force you to kind of really focus on what is my actual strength, and then
right.
be okay with it. A lot of
And
times
be okay.
we want our strength to be everything. We want to be the
Yeah.
movie star, we want to be the actress, we want to be the NBA player, we want to be
Yes.
everything. When the
Yes.
reality is my strength is just over here. And if I maximize that,
Right.
there's no telling what can come from it, because I'm willing to just be authentically me.
Absolutely.
Um, Now, something that I've always found interesting in the coaching world is, well, at
Hmm.
least for me, and maybe I'm
Yeah.
just a problem child, but but there comes a time when who you are authentically and your ability to help a client sometimes may blur with the lines of remaining professional.
Hmm.
Like there's sometimes I have felt like I just need to keep it real with you right now. Like we got to
Right.
throw the these, thous, days up out the window, and
Right.
we just need to have a real hard come to whoever moment conversation.
Right.
Have you ever had that crossroads?
Of course. I mean, we all, because here's the thing, I do believe in authentic leadership, and I am who I am. And so what I've come to understand is that, I definitely may not be everyone's cup of tea, and everyone is not my cup of tea. Like that's why we niche down, and we are, focused on a particular avatar for, as our client, because we know that we aren't for everyone. But I would be remiss if I just didn't tell you what I'm seeing and be authentically me and really give you the honest truth of what I'm seeing. But again, part of the way that I do that is by building that rapport and that relationship so that we can have those tough conversations. You know, set the expectation that there may be times we will have to, have those conversations, or we may come to a crossroad, you know, um, but I'm going to give it to you the way that I see it. And let's talk through, let's work through, let's walk through how we can, address it or turn it around. And let's do that together.
Love that. Has it ever cost you?
Oh, of course it has. Of course it has. Because not everybody is ready for the truth, right? Not everybody is ready to take that real look at themselves. Not everybody is ready to say, it's me, not you, right? Um, and there was a point in time when I wasn't ready, until I was. And I said, well, everybody, that's how you get to everybody can't be wrong, because you're not just hearing it in one place, and you're not just hearing it one time, and you're not even just hearing it in one space. So when you hear it and it's repeated and it's repeated, it's time to start saying, well, maybe they have a point. Maybe I need to do a little bit of reflection. Maybe I need to ask some more questions and say, well, tell me more about that. Tell me more about how you're experiencing me. and how it makes you feel. And I know that, it won't be easy, but I want to understand it and I want to hear what you have to say. And after that, you have to make the decision about how you're going to go forward. But yeah, it costs you when people aren't ready, and it costs you when they're not in a good place, or they don't feel like you know what you're talking about, because then it becomes, your credibility on the line. But I've been through enough to know that I'm not an imposter in this space. And I can tell you that I got it wrong. And I can tell you what it cost me. And I just don't want to see it cost you the same thing. And when they're ready, sometimes they come back and they say, you know what? I really had to think long and hard about what you said. And it was tough to hear, but I would like to help. I would like the help in getting me there. And then there's others that don't come back and they never get it. And then, but it also is reflected in their business and their ability to continue to be profitable. Or sometimes, especially for small and mid-sized businesses, if they're in the black, they're profitable, they feel like that's fine because they can't see what they're leaving on the table. They can't see how, if they invest in and tweak these things, how there could be so much more to that, because they don't have that vision, right? So as long as I'm breaking even or above breaking even, I'm doing well, and I don't need your advice then. So, again, that's a choice. I'm not here to force myself on anyone. I'm here to lend a hand and lend my experience and expertise to those that desire it.
So I was going to ask, and you may have answered it, but I'm still going to ask the question anyway, just in
Okay,
case there's something that you want to add.
sure.
What advice would you give to someone that is in a situation where maybe someone is pushing back, or again, maybe they're working with a business that's profitable, and basically saying, no, it's you, and how to not view that as a personal failure? Because I think that's something like that
Yeah.
rejection, which is inevitable in any business. A lot of times people will internalize that and say, oh, I failed. And then like I said, it's a domino effect into everything else. So what advice would you give to that person or that business owner that's like, okay, I tried, they told me no, they told me I was wrong. I was really, really wanting this contract and it didn't work.
Well, at the end of the day, we are human, and certainly there are times when we internalize those things. But if you showed up with a plan, with integrity, with authenticity, and with honesty, and you know that you have done all that you can do, and you have, offered up all that you can, you just have to know that sometimes people aren't ready. Sometimes people just aren't ready, and that has to be okay. But also, it goes back to the idea of seeds, right? You may be the first person to plant the seed, or
That's
you may
good.
be the one that came along to water that seed. And, or maybe you've come along to weed that garden a little bit. But as that seed doesn't grow overnight, just know that maybe you've done your part to getting that thing to flourish. And maybe that person or that business or those leaders will come back around, but maybe they just aren't. You did the part that you were supposed to do in seeing that growth through, even though it maybe didn't feel like it at the time. So, when you've done all you can do, sometimes you just have to walk away and not take it personally. And remember that you are not for everybody. And so maybe that just wasn't your client.
I love that you attached it to values. As you said, as
Yeah.
long as you can say to yourself, I approach this with integrity, with honesty, with truth,
Yes,
that I am good, because you're holding yourself not to your client's outcome, but to how you are showing up.
absolutely.
If there
Absolutely.
was one leadership skill, leadership habit
Hmm.
that you're like, if I can just get anybody, any of my businesses, anybody that's listening to just hold on to just this,
Right.
what would it be?
Continue to learn,
That's
continue to
good.
grow. right? There are so many resources, right? And there are so many ways. Like, you're never done. That would be my advice. You're never done. You're never done.
I love that. So again, the name of the podcast is Leadership is Me. And so I ask everyone this. Um, when you look in the mirror, what makes you say leadership is me?
I think that that's a loaded question and I love it. When I look in the mirror, I say leadership is me because people are willing to follow. People are willing to take this journey with me as learning partners. They come and they seek out my counsel, my advice, my thoughts. They ask me to share, and so that gives me solace in that. I didn't choose to be a leader. Leadership chose me, I would say, and so I am taking it on, but I am also committed to showing up as the best me and leader that I can be. So I answered the call, and that's what makes me feel like that every day.
Completely love that. So Karen, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your journey,
Oh,
sharing your knowledge and insight because it comes across. I don't know if y'all ain't feel it. I don't know. Maybe you're a little numb today, but it comes across so clear. Your intensity and your passion and your conviction for this, which is needed because there's, as you
thank
said,
you.
there's a million coaches in the world,
Yeah,
but not a lot that are really there to truly help implement actual change. And so that's needed. And I think it's such a just a powerful reminder that leadership is not about perfection.
no,
It's about choosing to grow. It's about values. It's about conviction. It's about humility. Even when it's messy,
even when it's messy.
right. It's so much more. So before we wrap,
Yes.
where can people find you, and what, if anything, do you have on the horizon?
Oh gosh. Well, people can find me on social media. I am on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. And I am also on Instagram. I am Karen Cross-Hatten on Facebook or what have you. And then my business pages are Legacy Builders Coaching. Legacy Builders Coaching everywhere you can find me. And what do I have on the horizon? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, um, I'm just continuing to learn. I am accepting new clients at this time. And I am just, right, I'm just continuing to be me, striving and thriving. And I hope to see you all, right, out there doing the same.
Awesome. And again, I'm just so grateful that you took the time to spend some time with me. And I know that someone watching is hopefully walking away, which is a little more courage, right?
Um,
Courage, clarity, and conviction because of what we spoke here. So before I do my full closing, Karen, you have to indulge me for 1 second.
sure.
And you got to know this rule, so I'm not even gonna give you a clue. All I'm gonna say is OH.
OHIO.
Yes.
OHIO, baby. Yes, Ohio. We are here. Yes,
She
yes,
did.
yes,
I'm
we are
sorry.
here.
I needed it, y'all. I'm sorry.
And
So
I thank you so much, Dahlia, for inviting me, for letting me have some space in your world, and sharing just a little bit about me. I definitely appreciate it, and I look forward to doing this with you again, perhaps on my own podcast coming soon. Right?
I would love to talk to you like a year, like where are you a year from now, and just circle back.
Oh yeah.
Um, so thank you again, and to every soul that's tuning in, thank you again for being a part of another episode of Leadership is Me. If today's conversation stirred something in you, don't just hold on to it, share it, sit with it, but most importantly, act on it. Again, because
Man.
leadership is not just built in a moment. As she said, she wasn't even really thinking about leadership. So ask
Mm,
yourself, have you actually asked yourself, what kind of leader do I want to be? And in
mhm.
those quiet moments, in those everyday choices where your identity, intention, and your growth will collide, that's where it will come from. Because the
That's
leader
where.
that you have been searching for is already in you. So If you'd like to share your journey on Leadership is Me, send us an email at leadershipisme@gmail.com or follow the link on the screen to sign up. I will have all of Karen's information posted on the closing screen so that you can access her once we're done. But until next time, get empowered, stay evolving, and most importantly, execute. Thank you
I
again.
love it. Thank you.
You can always tell when someone is being authentic and when someone is truly passionate about what it is that they're doing. And I don't know if that did not come across for you, but I definitely felt it, right? I definitely could feel that not only is she passionate about what she does, but that it's truly coming from an authentic place because she also has done the work. Her talking about her desire to show up and be the best person that she was for her employees, and then being willing to receive the feedback, to receive the insight into whatever that would take, and then doing the work. That's the type of person that you want on your team. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of person that you want to be surrounded with, because not only are they going to be willing to be positively influenced, they're going to be willing to influence you. And so, if there's one thing that I'm definitely walking away from this conversation with, and something that I would truly encourage you to take away from this conversation, is not only to operate in authenticity, but continue to pour into yourself, continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to surround yourself with people that are going to pour into you, right? Don't be afraid of the truth. Don't run away from it, because growth requires truth. Sometimes hard truth, sometimes things we don't want to hear. But if we're only hearing the things we want to hear, are we truly growing? I don't know. Something to think about. Until next time.